Hey everybody, I'm starting a few minutes early, but want to make some progress and see who's here. Caroline and Dalton, glad to have you aboard. And we'll take a look at kind of a specialized piece of MIS today. This ties in with the hands-on project that I ask everyone to do. And just as a review, it's over on page 72 in the textbook. It's using MapQuest. And let me ask all of you if you have a microphone, go ahead and mute it. And then if you have a question, please do me a favor and just hit the chat function, and it'll light up, and I'll be able to answer your question if you should have one. Just in terms of keeping us kind of on track and what's going on, make sure everybody sees we've got the case follow-up 3. I think we talked about that Monday, and then you have a hands-on project that's due on Friday, as well as Loudon chapter 3, which deals with organizations and management and networked enterprises and how IT is a piece of that. And I wanted to take today and kind of go through what I think are some kind of interesting things to look at in terms of geographic information systems. And this is this is a field that's really just exploded in the past few years, and with the use of with the development of GPS. And GPS is a global positioning system, and it alone is a database. It's all the coordinates on planet Earth. And then GIS, a geographic information system, is a means by which you collect geographic data, okay, and then put them superimpose them on some type of map, like we would layers on icing on a cake, for example. And so we're going to see some of that. And there have been some really revolutionary changes in all of that. As I've mentioned it before, if you've been classes before, I've taken about 6 or 7 courses on geographic information systems, mapping, and that type of thing. And so again, I just want to emphasize to everybody, take a shot at that and use MapQuest. And what you're doing is using it to map out a transportation route for a business and select the most efficient route. And this is to get you thinking spatially. And there's so much that's going on in terms of mapping and the use of geographic information systems that I wouldn't be doing you a favor if I didn't really emphasize to you that that is a huge thing. And there are really 2 things that are driving it. One, really 3 things. One is obviously the cloud and the ability to store data on the cloud and to store it quickly and very efficiently. The second is the use of ubiquitous computing. There's a wonderful couple of articles in the New York Times that talk about the iPhone. It's been around for 10 years now, and how much it's been a game changer. And when we talk about that notion of ubiquitous computing, we talk about the fact that you're never ever really offline, okay? And if you're like me, you carry your phone around. My wife has her phone with her everywhere she goes. I plug it into the car. I have my phone here at the house. It has I use an Android. She's got an Android because we're kind of, we're not Apple people. But nonetheless, and then you have this thing called the Internet of Things, where we're embedding chips into products, or we're using things like radio frequency, RFIDs, radio frequency ID tags, all kinds of things like that. And so I thought that today it would be worth your while for me to take you on kind of a little tour and show you some of the different applications that are going on. And let me say this, when you finish school, I would really finish your degree, or if you have some time in the summer, I really recommend that you go over to Coursera, okay, and get involved in their online MOOCs, because they have some tremendous courses over there. And then if you register with Esri, which is the world's best mapping company, bar none. They have a whole series of training courses that are free that you can go through. And obviously, you know, they're doing the things to try to convince you to buy their services. But there are all kinds of uses of these systems. And I was going to take you through a web safari today and just kind of walk you through that. And so let me real quickly. I'm going to do a quick search here for Coursera. And see what courses they have in terms of geographic information systems. Okay, and I'll guarantee you, if you really want to see how fast all of this is changing with MIS, here you start to see some incredible stuff. This is a specialization offered by Duke University. I went through it. I went through the data science specialization over at Johns Hopkins. So you're not the only one going to school. The rest of us are as well. And here's one on data structures, algorithms, and the key thing. And here's another one of these that we talked about, Tableau, and how we're getting these tools. But I'm gonna do a search on GIS, and you'll find here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. I'm looking for 8. And let's see what else there's 8. Just right there, these courses are all free, or they're part of a specialization and very low cost. So, and let me tell you this, if you go through a certification program, and some universities offer them, you will greatly enhance your skill sets. And I'd say this, if you're a marketing student and you don't understand, or you're not aware of how we can use mapping, you're behind the times, because location analysis and the rise of the Internet of Things, ubiquitous computing, the cloud, etc., is a total game changer in terms of how we deal with customers, how we identify problems, and so forth. So I want to take you kind of on that trip, and this again is segues from this week's hands-on project. So I'm going to start with Esri, okay? And those of you who had a class with me, data analysis, probably you've seen this. If you've had BISS 1123, you've seen this. And if not, I'm just going to put in a zip code, okay? The zip code where I live, okay? And what this will do is it will locate me, and it will tell me, all right, what are the prevalent kinds, what they call psychographic profiles or marketing profiles of these market segments. And if you ever stop by my office there in Bailey Business Center, you'll see a thing hanging down from there, and it's from Esri, and it shows, I think, if I'm not mistaken, income distribution in terms of a thermal in the United States, and then some other data on the back, but it uses Tapestry. And the Tapestry will give you this kind of an output in terms of who these people are, what they're all about. If you click on another zip code, it will tell you. And then they will give you, they'll also give you income data. Okay, and you can see the median household incomes, the darker, the better, or higher, if you will. And then age, and the darker the blue, the older, and then population density. Okay, and of course, you can back this thing out, and they can get you more data about those demographics, and of course get in contact with them. But I'm going to tell you this alone is a tool that anybody could use. But again, you can buy their commercial version. Now, this is a short little video. I mean, a short little kind of article, screenshots of using your smartphone to explore a city. And probably many of you, you utilize, probably many of you utilize the GPS in your phone to find places, okay? And this is this article, the person talks about, he identified where he ate, or she ate, whoever that was, and then again, some more software based on location. This is incredible stuff. Again, when you think about the fact it's all in your phone, and this is an article certainly worth looking at. It's got some interesting stuff. But again, this is an example, okay, of using an information system, okay, because you've got to have the data. Now, I want to show you another very interesting thing, and this is from the New York Times 360, and I'm going to play this. I assume it'll play on your screen as well. And we're going to have to sit through this ad for a minute, but we'll see this. It's kind of worth the wait. This is a complex through Hurricane Irma. Now, I'm not going to spend the time letting you watch it. You can go over and find it over at the New York Times. But let me pop through near to the end of the video where they talk about what she's doing. Back behind her. Here you see loading a pod, and they drop these pods, and then they have a parachute and they float down. Now, you say, okay, what's the point? Well, the point is, in order for you to have all that data, there has to be some input. So what these folks do is there are dozens of them that fly in and out of these hurricanes, and they drop these pods, and that gives us information about what's going on inside of the hurricane. Now, some of the Doppler weather systems, some of the Doppler radar, those systems, those are locational systems. When you watch the weather, you're really seeing a database, a geographic information system on display with thermal maps and all kinds of things layered on to tell you about what's going on. But the data that are there are literally come from those pods, as well as the radar, okay, that we have, so we can learn about what's going on. It's kind of a cool video, and I would recommend you go over to the New York Times and take a look at it, because it's now, the nice thing is it has a 360, so you can kind of go around the plane. I believe it has that capacity. So I won't go through the whole 3 minutes of it. I'm not here to show movies, but it is something I think quite interesting. Now, here's Doppler radar, and this is from NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and this is from the National Weather Service. And if you're not aware of it, the National Weather Service is housed down in Norman. It's off of Highway 9 down in the south. It's known as South OU campus. And my wife and I had some friends that the gentleman was working on his doctorate in meteorology, and they took us on a tour through that place, and it's unbelievable. Now, this is using geographic information system data interposed with layers that give us all kinds of information: air quality, the radar, and of course you can use this map, and there's a lot here to learn. Okay, and this is a map really really more for weather junkies than the rest of us. You know, if you're like me, you just want to know the temperature. But this is a tremendous use, and this is really almost kind of like a dashboard, if you will. And again, this is one of those things that uses locational data, and again, in an information system, so that we can see what's going on. And you can choose, okay, the radar, okay, the Doppler, whatever you want to use, and it will focus you in there and start to give you some data. And you can see the national maps, forecasts, warning. Again, this is not possible without information systems. And what we're now doing is we're putting geographic data into those, or superimposing data, weather data, etc. And you know, let's say, for example, your FedEx or your UPS, you need to know what's going on in terms of the weather. There's just, you have to, because you're flying planes all over the earth, and you've got vehicles traveling, etc. So again, another one of these examples, and again, I would certainly encourage you to come over and take a look at it. So I don't want to wax too philosophical about it, but I do think that it's important for you to be aware of how we're starting to create geographic information systems, and then dashboards based on those. Because all these data are coming from weather reporting stations on the ground of one sort or the other, as well as the radar. And so what happens is you get a multidimensional view of what's going on. Now, I'm just going to, just to show you by contrast, I'm going to go over to the Weather Channel for a minute. And if you're like me, you may be a weather junkie. I am. I grew up in Oklahoma. What can I say? If I came within a hair's breadth of studying meteorology, because I just think it's fascinating. But at that time, there really wasn't much going on. But now that you can see, if I want to forecast, I can get today, hourly, 10 days, and I can get maps. It also gives me other locations like Shawnee, where I'm, or more. Here's the map for Oklahoma City, and it's going to open this up. And this map is basically, I can also choose a distance, okay? And this lets me do that, and then surround an area, move it out, and it lets me choose directional data for me. Okay. And then it's going to give me future cast, so it gives me some predictive information as well. So again, it's some fantastic stuff. Here are the layers. If you look right here, this gives me driving data, and then some other settings in terms of tools. If I want a satellite map, if I want a light map, timeline, legend, geolocate, distance ruler, any of these. I'm going to flip over to the distance ruler. Hopefully, I think I can turn it on. Trying to turn it on now. Let's see if we can get it. Well, it's not playing nice with me. And I guess it's on now. And let's see. I'll back myself out again. It's going to take my location. And then I'll zoom in. So I can see what's going on, and we can do a future cast, etc. So again, these are one of the pieces of MIS that's important and that we're seeing really come alive. Now, this is something I think I've shown this also in in the data admin class. This is a map that's created by the Los Angeles Times, and it's called their homicide report. And what they do is they show the location of homicides, okay? And then they'll run an article, or they'll run a blurb about every person who's been a victim. Now, what's this all about? This is that publication speaking to the public, trying to say to the public and to the city government they're being active by saying, hey, look, we got a problem, okay? And there are municipalities and large areas like Los Angeles that will use this type of data, and they'll put it out there. This is from the Times, and this is to help get people more sensitized to this terrible thing that our country's in a grip with, and the homicides. It's just unbelievable that we have this kind of thing going on, and so that's what that's all about. Here's Google Maps for government, okay, and these are the different people who are involved with that. There's the City of Chicago, the U.S. Census, and these are demos for emergency management, for public health. They show you some more information in terms of what they can do, and this is Google selling their maps. Now, they also have APIs, okay, applications, and they have their resources, and they have a partner directory, pricing, etc. Not too bad, a pretty good service, okay? And you can see, as I've talked about this, using Google Maps, third-party data, okay, your data, then any imagery and assets that you might have, and they, they can run you through some. They can run you through some demos of that, of what they can do. Okay, so again, here's another one of these, and you'll see case studies and things of that nature telling folks about that. Now, there's I want to also take you over to let's see, what did I want? We had the victims. We've got Doppler. We went to Coursera, okay, and then we have the more weather maps. So I think we've, in that sense, pretty much run the gamut in terms of some of the mapping that's out there. I do want to go back to Coursera, and I want to again encourage you to get involved. Now, some of these courses are completely free. Some of them are part of a specialization track, okay, and they are extremely useful. And I think if you were to say, well, Dr. Harmon, okay, I might have some time to do this, then I would say probably you would want to start with this course, the Geospatial Revolution course, that's put on by the NSA. And I know Dr. Robinson, and took the course, and have had a lot of contacts with him and spoken with him, and the class was just unreal in terms of how we've seen the revolution in the use of data. Now, we'll go back here for just a second, okay? And I wanted to make sure that you get a real sense of how this is just a renaissance, if you will, in mapping. And here's an interesting course. I think, yeah, this is one I took. It's imagery automation applications and how to create dashboards looking at that. Here's one on geospatial and environmental analysis, looking at changes in the environment. Some great stuff, okay? And this is a class on GIS, graphic information systems, and developing those kinds of tools. So I wanted to make sure that we took some time and talked about that, and that I gave you an opportunity to see it. And you'll find some other types of tools over there that use GIS, and that was one of the reasons I included this hands-on case to get you kind of thinking about things from a spatial standpoint, and how do we use this type of data in a business, because it is part of that. And I want to see if they've got the location analysis. I'm gonna pop it back here, and let me just put this in for just a second. I think that the course was called the Location Vantage. And let's see if it's in here. Or I may have to go back to that might be an Esri course. Let me pop over here to Esri, okay? And this, of course, you've heard me talk about them. They have ArcGIS, which is this is the company, and then this is one of their products, okay? And they are the very best at providing mapping software. And you know, you can only imagine at this point, okay, how important it is for them to be able to use these data. And if you've seen the pictures there, particularly in the Florida Keys, where there's just nothing, and I think I mentioned this class the other day, the only way that they can find people or navigate is using the GPS, because the signage and everything it's gone. And so I think that it would be worth your while to take a look at some of these tools that they've got. And I'm just going to drill down for just a minute and look at some of their products. Now, before we do that, I just mention this. They have what they call the ArcGIS Pro. That's a pretty expensive product, and an enterprise level, a pretty expensive product. Then they have ArcGIS Enterprise, okay, that if you have multiple locations, all kinds of things. And then there's the online version, which I've used, which is quite good. I took a course on developing apps, okay, and so that was a very useful thing. Now, I want to show you one other what I think is a really cool site, and I love this. This is the ARDA, the Association of Religion Data Archives. And this is the place to come if you want good statistics. So if you're a ministry minor, or you want to be a church planter, or anything of that sort, this is a great place to come. This is the best repository available on data on religion in the United States. And I'm going to show you one of them that I use all the time is the GIS maps, okay? And I'm going to enter a zip code, and this is, you can see their congressional maps, site tutorials. I'm going to enter a zip code. That's my home church. I did a little bit of work with them. Okay, and this shows you all of the churches, okay, that are in their area. And they were pretty stunned when I did a presentation with the church staff. They said, "We knew there were a lot of churches in Oklahoma, but this blows my mind." Okay, now. As you would guess, these churches are all scattered along major thoroughfares. And so I entered a zip code, and I'm going to use a locational tool here. And I'm going to click on the map to select a center point for the radius, and then click profile. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to drill down a little bit so I know exactly closer where I'm at. Okay. And there's 240, and I'll have to come on down here. Okay, and this is Southeast 19th, so I want to go back up. Here we are, First Church Moore. That's my home church. Okay, and this is a 2-mile radius. These are all of the different churches within a 2-mile radius of my church. Now, if I wanted to change that, now let me stop for a minute. I've done a lot of work with churches, larger ones, in trying to understand their geographic profile. And it never ceases to amaze me how shocked they are when I take their membership data, say from 1990, and I take all the addresses and I run them through a batch processor that will create a map. And then I do a map for the year 2000, and it's changed. And then I do a map for 2010, and then I do a current map. And believe me, it really does get their attention, because what happens is they see how their congregation, the movement, if you will, of their congregation in terms of where they're located. And we do know that church attendance, okay, we know that people will only drive so many miles, okay, to go to church. And we know that it's the average person who goes to church on a regular basis it takes them about, on average, 18 minutes. After 18 minutes, most people, the membership drops off the map, because people aren't going to drive 35, 45 minutes to get to a church. They just won't do it. Okay, and so this was within what would be their sweet spot, as I told them, in terms of people who are going to be members. And I showed them this, and then I popped up a map I had developed, and they were stunned when they saw how well it fit. Now I'm going to take this out to 5 miles, and let's see what that looks like. And I'll do the profile. Okay. And remember, my home church is located on 27th and I-35, okay, in Oklahoma. They're right off of I-35 and 27th. And this shows you, okay, the population. And there are all kinds of data that can be gotten here. And they've got a research hub, a press room. They've got congregational resource centers. And I've worked with some of the people there in the church to get them to use this, okay, to track membership patterns, but also visiting patterns. And when I also culled data and created mapping on their visitors, and it was just astounding how much the visitors, the location had changed. Now, the cool thing about this site is that you can not only have this cool looking map that shows you, okay, their parameters, but you can get data on religion, whether the churches, housing, okay, information about the type of people there, income, gender, and age. And it's interesting. Now, it's been interesting also is to see how church staff, especially pastors, interact with all this. For some of them, it frankly kind of they don't feel comfortable. Most of the education ministers I've worked with love this thing, and I've been involved in a couple of church plannings and church revitalizations. One of them, a Mosaic church, and in a new area in Oklahoma City where they're building 50 houses a month. And we use the location analysis and so that they could identify the pastor there who's building that church, and the small number of people who went with him as an initial membership. And what they do is, when I go over and get MLS data on house sales, okay, or house purchases, excuse me. And we know that from the time a person purchases a house, typically in the United States, it's about 20 days before they actually move in. A lot of people think you just move in the next day. It's typically no, especially today when people want to remodel and all that kind of thing. So what we did is they put together a little welcome packet, and so when the people are moving, are in that process of moving in, they contact them and drop off a move-in packet with some coupons and things of that nature. And they have their Thursday night in Baptist churches traditionally is visitation night. For them, they go around the neighborhood in that radius with an emergency packet. And this is if they see people moving in, okay, they spot a moving van, they spot people toting in, they stop, okay, and say, is there anything we could go get you and bring it back for you? Here's some information on our church. Here's some water and some energy food. And are you sure can we go get you something up at Lowe's or Home Depot? Because if you've ever gone through a move and bought a house on it, you're always missing something. And it's been a very effective ministry for them. And it's ministering to people in their time of need. And if you've moved, I guarantee you, you are in a time of, you're seriously in need of prayer. So I wanted to show you this. I think just as a wonderful, wonderful resource, and certainly one that's worthwhile. Now, that pretty much would run the gamut, and I'm going to update this to see some of the latest imagery. And again, I can get all kinds of data in terms of forecasts, layers, etc. There's Shawnee, what's going on with more, and I can add locations. But again, this is a geographic information system, okay, and its usage. Now, all of you are probably aware of tracking airline flights. Here's another bit of locational data. See, most of this, and I teach the IT class at the graduate program, and I told them last night, I said, you and my undergraduates, this kind of stuff that, gee, I can click on the phone and find a restaurant, or gee, I can click on an app and find out what's going on with the flight. It's just, okay, big deal. For me, it's a big deal because I lived without cell phones. My wife and I are continuously laughing and saying, how did we live without a cell phone? Well, you used a payphone. And then I remember the innovation was the use of phone cards. You guys don't even know about those, but you had a little card and you went to the payphone, okay? Or if you were at someone's house, you dial the operator and give them your number, and yeah, then you had so much money on it. Some of them were open-ended. Some of them it's like a debit, like a cash card. You had so many minutes you could buy. That was the big deal. Now you carry a phone around, and then you have these. You also have the stuff in your car. But here we can view real-time flights. Okay, and I'm showing you this so that you can understand that every business in some way or the other needs to be savvy in its use of locational data, and in some way or the other needs to be looking at, particularly if you want to understand marketing data. And it's incredible to me. Now, I'll give you a good example, okay, of a GIS. I bought some shoes, and they're supposed to be here today, okay? Let's see if they show up. But this was, I created an account. I made the purchase. You know the drill. I made the purchase. I created the account. I log in. I can see where the stuff's at and all this business. And so this flight tracker, which is nothing to you, okay, is everything to me. And in fact, things like the flight tracker are really old back office commercial products that were used by the airlines, and the people who pioneered all this was American Airlines, that now they sell out to the public as an app. the data for these flight trackers and these apps and things come from the American Airlines system that they developed back in the 1950s. And I'll just stop this for a minute. And I'm not really wanting to listen to that. Maybe you did, but too bad. But again, you know, they want you. You can download the thing to your desktop. They've got apps, track your home airport, etc. And again, as they mentioned here, it's official American Airlines data, the OAG, and they are the official people. They started they really were the people who pioneered reservation systems, and so that they're the people who sell the data for secondary providers. But kind of a cool thing, again, to track flights and see what's going on. And of course, we've seen some of the more dramatic uses of this technology. So I can't stress enough to you that this is something that's very exciting. And if you're a marketing student, you really do want to get involved with these types of tools if you're not already. And you know, if you're like me, look, I'm old school, and I know how to use a map. Okay, I know how to navigate the terrain without a map. If I have a clicker and a tool to do it. But you know, people want their information right then, and my wife will even, you know, when we go on trips, she'll have everything. She'll know where every rest stop is. She'll know where every restaurant. She'll have it all out there. And so when we travel, it's just like, you know, we're going here. We have a full. We know exactly where we're going to go, what we're going to do, the whole bit. And so these are not possible unless we have the ability to put the stuff in the database and then get it delivered back up through running a query. And if I can look at this by route, I can look at this by flight, and again, just a way to segue some in terms of using that, in terms of using that geographic data. And that's why I wanted you to do 211 and to take a look at that. Now, one of the other case studies I really thought about having to do was 210, and to use the D average, and this was to do some work in terms of evaluating your suppliers. But I chose to do two, and you might want to do that if you want to go a little bit beyond the course and do something a little bit more than you normally would. And that's over on page 72. And I'm not saying you have to do it, but you know, you can work through it. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the other reasons I didn't is because it's in the MIS lab, which is another $200 you have to pay. So that would be, I don't know if that's going to be to your advantage. I have access over there, and I may just go get it and throw it out there, pirate it, and throw it out there and say, hey, if you want to play around with this, you can. This is a thing on selecting suppliers. Now we've gone for a little bit of ways, and I do appreciate your being here, your attention, and all that business. And again, I can't emphasize enough to you, this ought to tell you, okay, all of this stuff, and how important it is. These Coursera courses, I've taken them, okay? These are MOOCs, massively open online courses. Many, and the specialization tracks, they can run from anywhere to 50 to $100. And I'm not saying do them all, but I really do believe, okay, that you want to look at some of these seriously as some continuing education opportunities for you, and so that you can you can keep improving your skill sets and stay on top of things. And I, as I said before, I really believe we're just at the cusp of what we're going to be able to do with MIS and the whole idea of a management information system and what they can do. So again, want to encourage you to take a look at them. I want to go back for a moment to the New York Times, and again, like I said, this is just one of these tours to kind of show you what, how we're using some of these. And and of course we've got the issues around, what's happened there. And I'm just going to take a look here, okay, at this. I think I looked at this morning. This is one of these things over at the New York Times that gives you you can drag and drop your mouse and look at this. I've got a 360 view perspective. Isn't that wild? And this is the little viewer down here. Now, this is not possible without databases and GIS. You can't do it anything with it. Okay? And so that kind of like got a little crazy with us there. Again, I'm going to click on, because it just simply may be overloading us in the system there. So I'm going to try to get that off there. And get us out of that. All right, and may have knocked us off completely. I hope not. I'm gonna go back over here and get BISS up, and it's gonna give me some troubles here. Well, let me go back here for just a minute, okay, and see if I can get see if it overloaded this. We may have eaten up too much bandwidth. And so I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've kind of botched this up, but we have gone nearly an hour. And let me encourage you to go out and look at some of these sites. And I think what I'm going to do at this point, I'll see if I can get us into the course. Go back into Canvas real quick, because there's one or two other things I wanted to point out. And I overloaded this there with that bandwidth, and for that I apologize. Let me find, this stuff's gonna happen. Search, there's Canvas, and I should be able just to pop back in there. Let's hope. And I learned the lesson there of trying to do the 360. It's taking a little bit of time to load. So thank you for your patience. These kinds of things that happen probably would happen if I was at school too, or waiting for it to come on. And if it doesn't, then I'll just shut this off and say, we started early and we've got close here. I'm not going to make you watch the clock. I don't believe in it. I do want to do one final little bit of housekeeping to make sure we know what's going on. And I'm going to click on the syllabus again, okay? And I want to make sure that everybody understands. Good, we're back up. And we're still recording, even through all that monster problems we had. What's due on this is due on the follow-up was due on Friday the 8th. These are things that are due on the 12th, okay? And I've got some, let's see, those are due on the 12th, yeah, which is today. And here we are. Okay, am I in the wrong pew? I'm in the wrong pew. I'm sorry, folks. No wonder I'm sitting here going, what? This makes no sense. Let me get back to BISS 3503. I was over in the graduate class. My apologies. Okay. And I'm going to go to the settings for the student. Okay. And we'll take a look down here. And here's what's coming up. The hands-on project that's due the 15th, Loudon Chapter 3, that is due, and this, of course, was due the 11th, and that was, of course, Monday. Then we've got some interactive sessions coming out next week. You see the pattern that I'm following here to give you some chance to do some little case things, and then a hands-on type of thing, and then a quiz over the chapter, and and you can see that pattern is kind of following. So that ought to keep everybody going. Now let me stop for a minute. I'll see all who is here. Okay, and I'm not sure who 908 is, but I have your Allie. Glad to see you. Dalton, Erica, thank you so much. Glad you're here. Hudson, Libby, Martin, thank you. Samuel, we got Shane, Tucker, Carolyn, a whole bunch of you here. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Let me see, does anybody have any questions? And if you do, pop the chat on and I'll try to answer it.
You ever heard of Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. Harmon? No,
anybody have a question?
I'm like, all you have to do is and like, I don't got it.
Anybody? Oh, let me unmute all. If you have a question, I can unmute you or you can send me a chat. Now, one of the interesting things I've not done on this is I've not used the whiteboard and annotated anything, and I haven't tried the remote control. I've done just about everything else. I'm going to unmute everybody, and I see if you have a phone or a microphone. Anybody have a question I can help you with? Okay. I suppose not. All right. I'm going to close it off, and then we'll be ready to go. Now, again, I do appreciate you being here. And trust me, I'm gonna get my pound of flesh out of you. So I'm gonna let us out of here about 25 minutes early. And we did start a little bit early, so we're not killing anything in that regard. So again, thank you for being here. And if you have any questions other than what you'd like to chat with me right now, please do me a favor, send me an email, and I'll get back to you. And I would encourage you to make use of these virtual office hours that I post. Here's the deal. I'm telling everybody this. What happens is you click on the link, okay, and I hear a chime on my machine, and then I have the video. You can see me if you want to turn yours on, fine. If you don't have to. I don't care, but you can talk. I can show you files. I can go through. If you have a question, I could go over to DegreeWorks and answer a question about that, or answer a question about an assignment. So I can do everything that I would need to do if I'm just sitting in the office. And so please, when I post those, if you have a question, avail yourself, because I'm trying to use the technology to make it convenient for everybody. And to make it as convenient as possible, so I can have some hours that are there. Now, what I do with this is I record the sessions. Okay, so every one of my virtual office hour sessions they're all recorded, and I don't publish them or anything. I keep them just for as a record for myself. So I would really encourage you, and if you just wanted to stop by and see what it's like to do it, fine. It's not that big of a deal. I know you guys use FaceTime, Instagram, live Facebook. You guys probably Skype and all that. So the technology is not any different. So if you have a question or something, I can help you. And if you had a situation, say, like, Dr. Harmon, could I schedule an appointment with you for like 7:30 on Wednesday night or something like that? If I don't have anything going on, I can do that, and I can try to help you. So it's a nice tool, and I'm really trying to encourage all of you to use it so that so it can be a convenience. Now, my office hours are posted on my door at work, and you also know that if you can look at that, you can see the schedule, and you pretty much can tell that. I think I have it listed there the times I'm in the office physically there, but there's nothing I can't do, from here remote that I can't do in there. Okay, but again, I'm here to help, and I'm posting those hours so I can try to expand the amount of time that you can have available to me. And we're trying to see how this works if we do these courses on a hybrid basis. That being said, I will see all of you on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing your work. And again, if you have a question, please feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll try to answer it. Or if you have something more extensive you need to talk about, I'm happy to try to set up a video conference with you and I don't know how I could make myself any more accessible than that. Okay, again, thank you, all of you, for being here, just a ton of you, and I hope I got some of your imagination stoked about what you can do with geographic data, or got you interested in it. I will see you Monday, and I'm going to shut off the share and then stop the recording, and we'll be done. Thank you so much, everybody, and I'll see you next Monday.